Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Beyond World is One. My name is Diksha Bisla and this is World DNA. We have lots lined up for you on the show today, but first a quick check on the headlines.
We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended.
US President Donald Trump says that current plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war was not his final offer to Kiev, as European allies voice concerns over the proposal. South Africa says a diplomat from the US Embassy has been assigned to take part in the handover of the G20 Presidency, adds that it can take place anytime from Monday. Drone sightings in south of Netherlands lead to air traffic suspension for several hours at Eindhoven Airport. Japanese officials blast China's claim that Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi shifted Japan's Taiwan stance, calls it baseless, urged dialogue to prevent ties from spiraling. Demonstrators rally in Washington, D.C., demanding President Donald Trump's conviction and impeachment. Airlines cancel flights to Venezuela amid reports that the U.S. is to launch a new phase of operations against the country. Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro admits that he tried to damage his ankle monitor out of curiosity, a day after being taken into custody amid concerns that he was plotting to escape house arrest. Gunmen kidnap over 300 students and teachers in one of Nigeria's latest school abductions. Niger State closes all schools. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres praises Cop30 efforts but acknowledges that many may feel disappointed with the results over a climate deal or without a fossil fuel plan. Gold is now outperforming Bitcoin by about 20% since the first Bitcoin ETF was approved in January 2024. While both are down from their all-time highs, gold is still trading close to its record, while Bitcoin has crashed over 36% from its peak. South Africa has welcomed the news that the US was ready to take over the G20 presidency. Well, in a briefing to the media, South African Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola said that a diplomat from the US Embassy has been assigned to take part in the handover, which he said can take place anytime from Monday.
The handover must happen at the head of state level, or at least a minister who is properly designated by the President of the United States of America. So now that they have assigned a charge, we have said DERCO has equivalent officials of the charge. Hence we welcome that they will now receive, we will do the handover. We will do it at DERCO offices anytime from Monday.
While previously, the president's spokesperson said that he will not hand over the presidency of the G20 to a junior embassy official, calling it a breach of protocol not going to be admitted. Well, the G20 leaders adopted a declaration addressing the climate crisis and other global challenges on Saturday over US objections, prompting the White House to accuse South Africa of weaponizing its leadership of the group this year. Now, the White House spokesperson Anna Kelly said that US President Donald Trump looked forward to restoring legitimacy to the G20 in the US 2026 host year. The adopted declaration shows the G20's strong commitment to working together through multilateral cooperation. The leaders pledged to support efforts for lasting and fair peace in the conflicted regions. And this included just and lasting peace in Ukraine, DR Congo, Sudan, and the occupied Palestinian territory. The declaration also called for responsible governance of artificial intelligence and digital inclusion. The leaders pledged to strengthen global health security, supporting vulnerable countries in disaster recovery and food security. Shifting focus to West Asia, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has accused Hamas of breaking the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, saying that in response, Israeli forces have targeted and killed 5 senior Hamas operatives. Local health authorities in Gaza reported that Israeli airstrikes killed at least 20 people and injured more than 80 others. The Israeli military said that the strikes followed what it described as a gunman crossing into Israeli-controlled areas through a humanitarian route which was meant for aid. A claim that Hamas has denied, calling it a pretext for violence. Both sides have continued to accuse each other of violations in recent weeks. In central Gaza's Deir al-Balah, injured Palestinians were brought to Al-Aqsa Hospital as medical facilities continued to manage casualties.
3 martyrs and more than 20 injured have arrived at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, most of them women and children. Among the injuries, there are many severe wounds to the head and chest. At Al-Auda Hospital as well, there are 3 martyrs and dozens of injuries. In Gaza Governorate too, the number of martyrs has risen to 10 so far.
Meanwhile, in Israel, relatives, supporters and recently released hostages gathered for their weekly rally in Tel Aviv. They call for the return of the remaining 3 bodies believed to still be in Gaza, 2 Israeli and 1 agricultural worker for Thailand. Now, under the current ceasefire, militants have released the remains of 25 hostages. Hamas has said that some bodies are still under rubble left by earlier military operations, making recovery even more difficult.
Let's not leave them alone. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the past. Let's commit to these 3 families that they are truly not alone. Let's ensure that only then will we all come home. Only then will this place truly feel like home. Only then, until the last hostage.
Protesters also demanded a state commission of inquiry into the events of October 7, 2023.
We came here to demonstrate against Bibi and in order to create, I say in Hebrew, ועדת חקירה ממלכתית, so that the Vada will investigate all the war and before the war and to get the conclusion who is guilty.
The war began with the Hamas-led attack on southern Israel that killed about 1,200 people and resulted in more than 250 hostages being taken. Now, most of the hostages or their remains have since been returned through ceasefires or negotiated agreements. According to Gaza's health ministry, 69,733 Palestinians have been killed and 170,863 injured during Israel's military response. And following the concerns raised by Ukraine and its allies, US President Donald Trump said that his plan to end Russia-Ukraine war is not a final offer for Kiev. And this comes after European state heads cited the proposed border changes and an army cap on Ukrainian side as part of the plan. Well, President Volodymyr Zelensky had previously warned Ukraine faced one of the most difficult moments in history over US pressure to accept the plan that Trump has proposed. Now, Trump on Saturday said that it was not his final offer, but added that he needed to end the war one way or another.
No, not my fault. No, we'd like to get the peace. It should have happened a long time ago. The Ukraine war with Russia should have never happened. If I were president, it never would have happened. We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended. So, well, then he can continue. Then he can continue to fight his little heart out.
Earlier, Trump had given Ukraine until November 27th to approve the plan to end the conflict. Both Ukrainian and US envoys are set to meet in Switzerland along with E3 security chiefs, which is an informal alliance between UK, France and Germany. They will discuss the peace formula currently facing a pushback from Zelensky, who termed it as favorable to some of Moscow's hardline demands. Zelensky said that he has appointed a delegation to discuss the peace plan with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who will be taking part in talks in Geneva. The discussions around Russia-Ukraine conflict continued at the G20 summit as a joint statement signed by 11 countries at Johannesburg read that the 28-point peace plan would require additional work and raised concerns about limitations on Ukraine's armed forces and the territory swap. Moreover, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer met with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in the two leaders briefly exchanged views on advancing the Ukraine peace process. French President Emmanuel Macron said that he welcomed US peace efforts and accused Russia of starting the war. He added that Moscow had refused to take all previous ceasefire proposals seriously.
Our unique problem, all of us, is Russia, which started this war. We refused to take the ceasefire proposals in February, March, July, August, etc., and didn't provide any guidance if they are okay just to have a ceasefire now. And look at the humanitarian situation in Ukraine, not just in the east, but everywhere. Look at the situation of the infrastructure of energy and so on. I mean, this is a necessity to stop the Russians. There is one aggressor and one victim. Full stop.
Meanwhile, 31 Ukrainians returned home from Belarus on Saturday as a result of the agreements reached between US President Donald Trump and Belarus. Now, Trump this month had named a special envoy to Belarus and asked him with negotiating further releases. According to Belarusian state news agency Belta, President Alexander Lukashenko pardoned 31 Ukrainian citizens who were convicted of criminal offenses on the territory of Belarus.
The Belarusian side has reached an agreement to return 31 civilians. We are very grateful to the United States of America, particularly to President Donald Trump and his special representative in Belarus, John Kellogg.
At least 315 people have been abducted in one of Nigeria's worst mass kidnapping incidents. And this includes 303 students and 12 teachers. They were taken from a Christian school in Nigeria's northwestern Niger state. The St. Mary's Catholic School was attacked in the dead of night. In the early hours of Friday, the Christian Association of Nigeria announced today that 315 were kidnapped from the school. The local governor has announced that all schools in Niger state have been shut indefinitely following the mass abduction. St. Mary's was the second Nigerian school where a mass kidnapping took place this week.
These incidents will have been avoided. However, it's not a time for blame game. Our mission today is to see how we can rescue these children and all those that have been kidnapped in that incident. As such, we are calling on all the security agencies, civil society organizations, organized labor, clerics, to please focus on the rescue of these children.
Well, on Monday, a school was attacked in the neighboring Kebbi state. At least 25 schoolgirls and a teacher were abducted, and at least 2 staff members were killed. 2 of the girls managed to escape, but 23 are still missing, and these are not the only kidnappings that made headlines this week. On Tuesday, gunmen stormed a church service in the Kwara state. At least 2 people were killed and 38 kidnapped. The attack was captured on video because the service was being live-streamed at the time. A church official later said that the gunmen They have asked for a 100 million naira ransom per kidnapped worshipper. Now, that's about $69,000 per person. And that makes it 3 major attacks in just 5 days. 2 of them targeted schools, 1 of them a Catholic school. A church also raided with dozens of worshippers kidnapped, and all the attacks took place in the same region of Nigeria. Abuja has been under tremendous pressure over the attacks, and this is because US President Donald Trump has taken a special interest in Nigeria. He believes that Christians in Nigeria are being targeted. On October 31st, he designated Nigeria a country of particular concern for alleged religious freedom violations. Now, the following day, he put out a post on social media threatening to send the US military guns a-blazing into the country. A day after that, he made the following statement.
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
The Nigerian government has been scrambling in the wake of the recent kidnappings. Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff personally went to Kebbi State on Tuesday. He issued directions to troops overseeing the rescue of the 23 schoolgirls who are still in captivity over there. Meanwhile, Nigeria's National Security Advisor has been on a diplomatic mission in the US throughout this week. He reportedly met US War Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane on Thursday. After meeting Nigeria's National Security Advisor, Hegseth said that the US Department of War was actively working with Nigeria to end the persecution of Christians by terrorists. The US State Department also made the following announcement. Nigeria has been ravaged by insurgencies for decades. Groups like Boko Haram and the Islamic State, West Africa province have been behind a string of attacks. But this week's kidnappings have been attributed to armed raiders looking for a ransom. In Nigeria, they're colloquially known as bandits. Now, will Trump's focus on Nigeria actually help solve the country's insurgency problem? We'll have to wait and watch. America is the only major democracy that closes its government with such frequency. Shutdowns were even more frequent in the 1980s, but back then they lasted only a day or two. Since the mid-1990s, they have become longer and more damaging. In the next report, we decode why US political parties persist in this game of chicken. Take a look.
So with my signature, the federal government will now resume normal operation and make America affordable again for all Americans again.
Government shutdowns are detrimental to both the public and federal employees. Shutdowns lead to service and program disruptions and employees being furloughed or required to work without pay. Government agencies and services are severely limited. Non-essential operations are halted or reduced. Workers are furloughed, and only essential employees from departments tasked with protecting people or property are retained during a government shutdown. In the US, a government shutdown, also called a lapse in appropriations, happens when the funding bills that the government needs to run are not passed. The latest saw millions of Americans risking hunger when money for food aid ran out. A court had to step in and order the administration to use emergency funds and restore the program. Funding gaps have led to shutdowns since 1980. The recent shutdown that began on October 1st and lasted 43 days marked the longest in US history. The previous record was the 35-day shutdown of 2018-2019 during the first presidency of Donald Trump. The other long-duration ones include 21-day shutdown of 1995-1996 during the Bill Clinton administration and the 16-day shutdown in 2013 during the Barack Obama administration. The other 7 shutdowns lasted 5 or fewer days. When everyone understands the impact of a cutoff in government services, why are U.S. government shutdowns so frequent? Now, there is a legal requirement to shut down. Official legal interpretation from 1980 is the primary reason for a shutdown. A 1870 law called the Anti-Deficiency Act makes it illegal for government officials to spend money that Congress has not appropriated. For nearly a century, that act was read liberally, which allowed government operations to go on with minimum interruption during financial gaps. But in 1980, Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti issued a strong legal opinion that agencies must stop operations completely if financing is not authorized. The U.S. political and budget system makes the country different, unlike in many other countries where the executive branch can keep the government running during a budget impasse. The U.S. system provides multiple points of potential failure. The American Constitution gives Congress the sole responsibility to allocate funds. The President and both chambers of Congress, House of Representatives and Senate must agree on 12 annual appropriations bills. If one party controls the White House and another controls one or both the chambers of Congress, disagreements become more likely. A bill must pass both the House and the Senate and be signed by the President. A single chamber can block the funding process, or the President can veto a bill, leading to a standoff. Now, in recent decades, political polarization has increased significantly, making compromise harder to achieve. The combination of a strict legal requirement to stop spending during a funding gap and a political environment that incentivizes partisan standoffs means that funding gaps are a normal part of the legislative process. And as a result, shutdowns have become a frequent and uniquely American phenomenon. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And India closed day one of the second test in Guwahati on a high, thanks to a flurry of late strikes that left South Africa wobbling at 247 for 6. The Proteas batters all got starts, but none could kick in, marking the first instance in Test cricket where each of the top 4 scored 35 or more but failed to reach 50. Temba Bavuma won the toss and elected to bat first. The world champions were chasing their first Test series win in India in 25 years. Openers Aiden Markram and Ryan Rickelton made a steady start, putting on 82 for the first wicket. But that foundation soon began to crack. Jasprit Bumrah struck just before tea to remove Markram, and Kuldeep Yadav followed up immediately after the break by dismissing Rickelton. South Africa rebuilt through Bavuma and Tristan Stubb. The duo added 84 for the third wicket and showed good intent against the Indian spinners. But India's fight back in the final season changed the complexion of the game. Ravindra Jadeja got rid of Bavuma for 41, and then Kuldeep denied Stubbs a well-deserved half-century. Mohammad Siraj added another wicket with the second new ball. The pacer dismissed Tony De Zorzi in the final over of the day. And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. More coming up on the other side. India, Australia and Canada have come together to launch a significant new partnership in technology and innovation, and this is at the G20 Summit in Johannesburg. All this and more coming on the other side. Stay tuned. You're watching WION World is One.
This week on the West Asia Post, Israel's scale of strikes on Gaza have drained global TNT, leaving NATO short and Europe struggling to arm Ukraine. Iran's nuclear scientists and Russian officials have held 2 secret meetings. Is Moscow helping Tehran build nuclear weapons? Also on the show, Israel strikes are deepening in Lebanon. Refugee camps have been struck. Is the Israel-Lebanon front edging towards another war?
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
As 120 Bahadur hits the big screen, we decode how Indian war films have evolved over the years. Know why the remaining weeks of 2025 look packed for the ticket windows. And take a deep dive into the magical world of Wicked for Good. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
This week on the West Asia Post, Israel's scale of strikes on Gaza have drained global TNT, leaving NATO short and Europe struggling to arm Ukraine. Iran's nuclear scientists and Russian officials have held 2 secret meetings. Is Moscow helping Tehran build nuclear weapons? Also on the show, Israel strikes are deepening in Lebanon. Refugee camps have been struck. Is the Israel-Lebanon front edging towards another war?
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.